There was nothing on earth. No living being was on earth. It was like a wall before me. It was so unreal. I'm not part of anything, and so nothing seems real. The part of me that is there talking is like a part of a machine. I seem so unreal to myself. Those are the words from people that suffer depersonalization or derealization. It's a strange feeling that not many people have gone through personally, and it's really hard to describe, as we have no specific words to describe the phenomena. Only through the use of as-ifs can the patients describe their feelings to the researchers. They say it feels like they're in a dream, but can the real world be a dream? Depersonalization is an altered state of subjective experience with the absence of psychosis, where the sufferers often describe their feelings as detached from themselves and the surrounding, like they're the outside observers. It can happen as a primary disorder, or it can occur with depression, anxiety, or schizophrenia. It can happen in healthy individuals during fatigue, meditation, or extreme stress or drug usage. It's often described as if their emotions is numbed or dead. The world isn't fully real, empty, and lifeless are the common expression from people with depersonalization. It is argued that the study of depersonalization can give insights into emotion, experience, and identity. Depersonalization is the feeling that oneself isn't real, and derealization is for the environment that isn't real. But what do they mean when they say the surrounding is unreal, yet they know they're real? Depersonalized patients complain of altered body experience, inability to imagine things to perceptual anomalies like the external world feeling flat and two-dimensional, and colors looking less real or more real. If reduced emotional experience is the core feature of depersonalization, then why did the sufferers report a high level of distress? One explanation is that the sufferers tend to focus more on inner sensations and concerns than the external world. If they persistently focus on the strange altered feelings that is the core of the condition, the lack of attentional focus to the outside world might contribute to the distant feeling of the external world. This attentional imbalance might explain the experience of inner turmoil with emotional unresponsivity to the external world. The possibility of exercise to reorient tension can have a role in treatment. The shutting down of emotional responses in depersonalization is thought to be consistent with the notion that depersonalization is used as a defense against anxiety or negative emotional response. Healthy people exposed to great trauma always report at least some features of depersonalization is consistent with the idea that depersonalization is a normal response to threat, and people with pathological depersonalization may be more susceptible, and the response can be triggered at a lower threshold. In the 19th century, Pierre Janet described dissociation as a narrowing of attention and disorganization in the integrative function of consciousness that occurs when a person experiences intense emotions. Depersonalization and derealization may get pretty common during lockdown, with many people taking anxiety and depression screens, and in 2020, Mental Health America's online screening program saw people with severe symptoms is higher than prior COVID rates. Loneliness and being isolated may be the trigger, and interaction with others is crucial to keep us grounded in reality. To capture and measure the instances of depersonalization, different rating scales have been created. In a questionnaire by Sierra and Barrios, feelings of unreality are referred to in 4 items: feeling strange as if they were cut off from the world, familiar voices sounding remote and unreal, surroundings feeling detached or unreal, like a veil between them and the outside world, the feeling to touch themselves to make sure they have a body or a real existence. However, not every mention of unreality means depersonalization. The D category is something the researchers call existential reflections. The utterance of "my life feels unreal" usually means my life is meaningless or life is not what I expected it to be. Category E comprises of everyday exclamations like "Did I win? I cannot believe it. It's unreal." Or it can be used when grieving like I can't believe he's not here anymore. People with D and E description can elaborate it quite well and precise in making an indefinite explanation. While depersonalization can have many causes like PTSD or any brain disease, the main trigger is stress. War veterans, rape survivors, or people that witnessed extreme violence are more likely to develop depersonalization. It's like the unconscious mind has that eject button to detach you from the incomprehensible reality, like the case of the woman with 92 personalities, because she was so severely abused.
God, I know that I talk to myself, but I'm hearing this voice. What is this? Like you woke up one morning and in the bedroom and you looked around and they were all there. Except the mind is so kind to you, it gave you the impression of there being only 7.
You feel like you're not in control of your own thoughts and actions, even though it's not your body acting on its own, but it just feels like it. The feelings are hard to describe, but it's not a psychotic disorder because the sufferers are aware of what's happening in their mind, while people with schizophrenia aren't aware until the doctors tell them. But what does unreal mean? It can be interpreted as non-existent, like an imaginary friend. The second interpretation is that they're fake, like toy bears or Disney World characters. They exist as an object, but the talking duck doesn't exist and they are not real. The third interpretation of real isn't the ontological status, whether it exists or not, and neither that it means non-artificial, but whether if it meets our standards, like, you're not a real friend. When someone says that, it doesn't mean that they're not friends, but the friends don't meet the standards of criterion of friendship of the other person. Conforming to the third interpretation of real, a real self may mean that someone is authentic, or the normal self is the one that a person is comfortable with. It also hints that we feel a sense of belonging to our body, not like a ghost trapped in a mechanical body or machine. The same can be said to the unreality of the world, where they fail to see the familiarity that comforts them. However, some feelings of unreality cannot be illustrated. Dreams are often perceived as real or unreal, despite the recurrent strange contents. It has various degrees of sense of reality that has no obvious correlation with the amount of abnormalities in the dream. The unreality of a dream is most noticeable and often reported after awakening. The situation of our awake life can feel dreamlike, even when we cannot point out the specific items that make the whole situation dreamlike. The feeling of dreamlikeness can be spoiled by its association with the actual dreams, which are not real. If the world suddenly appears more like a dream than usual, it is only normal to let the doubt of unreality falls on us. Even with obvious cases of dreamlikeness where one knows it's real, we can still expect one to think that what one sees does not exist. Even so, one does not necessarily have to doubt reality, even with peculiar qualities. The difference between the first and the second sense of unreality is that the first is motivated by factors like a loss of control or not belonging to one's own body, and the second one is indescribable environment that makes one doubt reality. But what do the patients mean when they say they're dead, mechanical, or lifeless when they have no idea to either be one of those things? The peculiar and bizarre qualities of the experiences are difficult to express within the limit of our language, especially when the experience itself is a rare occurrence. So, that's why many people use the as-if prefix to describe their mental phenomena. The metaphors used have to be novel enough that it restricts the pre-established metaphor to distinguish themselves from other metaphor used in everyday language. The expression of "I feel like an automation" and "I was talking automatically" is similar, but the latter is usually used by the mentally healthy people to describe that they're talking without fully thinking or aware, like they're on autopilot. So the patients have to use their language creatively to really say what they're feeling using metaphors. Some patients even described some disturbances in their perception of time and related imagery. Depersonalization can happen in a split second and all the trusted sense of reality evaporates. It can settle for decades, but some can experience it in episodes falling victims to the triggering events, and some actually willingly induce the states of depersonalization to escape reality. Some even think that it occurs when one fails to fit into the norm of our society, and as an act of resistance to the shaping forces of the social order. One can induce the state of depersonalization by engaging in meditative techniques to alter consciousness as an egocentric desirable state. The major difference between the psychiatric syndrome and those who voluntarily participate in the state of depersonalization is that the self-inducers are egocentric, where they seek the states of depersonalization. But can the real world be a dream? What if the sufferers are just highly conscious, like what's happening with people that experienced near-death experience, where they claim that it's more real than real? When we dream, we don't know it's not real. Only after waking up, we know it's not real. And the near-death experiencers are claiming the same thing with their experience. Can we one day wake up to a reality that is more vivid and real, with levels of cognitive function that are thought to be impossible in our current lives? This book shows verifiable information that is not available to the five senses of the experiencer. So, could the world be a dream? Well, no one knows.